Today on CityCast Philly, students and parents at the Math, Civics, and Sciences Charter School in Callow Hill got some tough news recently. The school's founder announced she was shutting it down at the end of the academic year. This is leaving more than 900 students scrambling to find new schools. I'm speaking with an education reporter about how one educator could shut down a school. It's Monday, October 23rd. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Maddie Hanna, education reporter at the Philadelphia Inquirer. You've been reporting on this turmoil at Math, Civics, and Science Charter School. This school is located on Broad Street, right across the street from the School District of Philadelphia headquarters. And Maddie, if you've lived in Philly long enough, you often hear about schools closing. So I've got to ask you, why is this school's closure such big news?
The charter's closure came as a surprise to families and staff. Earlier this month, the founder and chief administrative officer, Veronica Joyner, sent out a letter saying basically that the school would be closing at the end of the year. This is a charter school that's been running for nearly 25 years in the city. It serves grades 1 through 12. So there are families who, send their kids there starting in elementary school with the idea that they'll continue through to high school. And it came as just fairly abrupt news to people. The founder said she was retiring and didn't think that anyone else would be able to take over the school and do the same job she did. She also, in interviews then, said that she was in a bit of a dispute with the school district's charter schools office, which is charged with evaluating schools, charter schools, at the end of their terms and deciding whether to renew them or not. And the district had offered only a 1-year renewal due to some concerns that it had identified in evaluating the school. And between, I guess, her decision to retire and this disagreement with the charter school's office, she just announced that it would close.
There's a lot to unpack in this. Something that you brought up, I just want folks to understand the idea of having a school that's grades 1 through 12 is such a relief for families because you don't have to take your child, your student, to a whole new community and get them acclimated in that way. That's huge. And I saw on the school website too that they tout that they have a 100% graduation rate, but it seems like the district has other thoughts on that. They say that the school and that students weren't making, certain grades in terms of test scores. Is that right?
Yeah, the school district apparently in its most recent evaluation of this charter, the reason they say they had only offered it a 1-year renewal was due to deficiencies in academics and operations. We're not sure exactly what academic issues the district identified, but in general, the school district is looking at the performance of students on standardized tests, as well as their growth on standardized tests when it's deciding whether a charter is meeting academic standards.
Got you. So I'm just curious, though, about why Veronica Joyner, there couldn't be anyone else to kind of replace her. I mean, can you just tell me a little bit just of the work that she's done with building this school up?
Yeah, so this school, this is one of the longest running charter schools in Philly. The charter school law allowing for charters, which are, just as a little bit of background, they're publicly funded, but they're independently run. So they're authorized to operate by the Philadelphia school system, but they're not managed by the Philadelphia school system. It's this kind of weird dynamic there, but the law that allowed for charter schools had only passed a year or two before this particular school opened. Veronica Joyner founded it, and I spoke to her a few times, and she was adamant that she works very long hours, that she's very involved in the school, that she's walking the hallways and doing the jobs of multiple people, and that other people wouldn't be capable or interested in doing the amount of work that she claims is required to run this school. So that's really the justification that she's given for this decision. There's been a lot of frustration among families due to this.
Does Joyner have the capability to actually close the school down?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's not entirely clear. So charter schools they're all supposed to have boards of trustees that oversee them, and Math, Civics, and Sciences does. However, and Joyner claims that the board agreed with her and voted to close this school, but we're not sure when that vote took place. There's no meeting minutes that have been listed on the school's website since 2020. And we reached out to the Board of Trustees for the charter school, but have not heard back in our reporting. So we haven't been able to find out if it's true that they did vote and if they're in agreement with Joyner. The school district's charter schools office says it doesn't believe that Joyner alone has the authority to make this decision, and that the charter schools board would have needed to have voted, and that they're looking into this question as well. I think another piece of this is, even if they found that the board hadn't voted or didn't agree with Joyner, Joyner runs a nonprofit that owns the school building, which she intends to sell. And I don't know if anyone has the authority to stop her from selling the building.
Maddie, were there other things going on at the school that called into question whether it would keep operating?
Yes, there have been issues that have been raised. There have been a number of lawsuits that have been brought against the charter, basically alleging exclusionary practices in terms of who was admitted or who was pushed out of the school. There was a case a few years ago brought by the Education Law Center alleging that a young girl was barred from enrolling because she had ADHD, and that once the charter learned that, they rescinded her offer to attend. There was a case last year in which a family said their daughter was illegally expelled with no due process after getting into a dispute with another student. The charter ultimately prevailed in this case by arguing that it hadn't actually expelled her. It had given her the opportunity to attend online classes. So there have been a couple examples that have raised concerns for the school district and have been on the radar of education advocates.
What's been the reaction from students after the announcement of the closing?
There were hundreds of students who walked out of school days after Veronica Joyner had sent out a letter saying that the school would be closing. They were frustrated. They were shocked and basically didn't understand how she could just decide this and that no one else could take it over. They thought that this didn't make sense, and also were concerned because the deadline for applying to the other schools in the school district for this coming year is October 27th. So this really threw a lot of kids and families for a loop, and suddenly having to contemplate what they were going to do for next year when they had assumed they would just be returning to the school they had been attending.
Right. And what's parents' options here? What options do they have to find another school? I mean, you said that deadline was October 27th. That's just a couple of days away. It's tight.
It's tight. Yes, that October 27th deadline is for school district schools, for other charter schools in the city. Some charter schools have different deadlines for enrolling, so it does depend, but many of the city's charters are now on the same timeline. And that deadline is not until January 22nd, so there is still time for that.
Is the school district going to help students and families?
I believe the school district has said it will help. I mean, Joyner says she will help, but it's a lot of families who will be searching for schools that are the right fit for their child. So it certainly is a big endeavor.
Maddie, you brought something up earlier that this building is located at 447 North Broad Street, which is, again, right across the street from the district headquarters. It's also in a neighborhood that's seeing a lot of redevelopment, especially along Broad Street. What's going on with the sale of this building?
Veronica Joyner runs a nonprofit that owns the building, and so the charter school pays rent to Joyner's nonprofit for the use of the building. And Joyner says that in closing the charter school, her nonprofit will be selling the building. She says that this isn't going to benefit her or other board members financially, although she also said that she, could start taking a salary from the nonprofit upon her retirement from the charter school. So it's unclear exactly how the finances will shake out here.
And that nonprofit is Parents United for Better Schools.
Yes.
Maddie, what's next for families? Are they asking for help or for anything to happen or to keep the school open?
Some families have asked to keep the school open, and the school district has been looking into this question of whether or not the charter school board took an official vote to close the school, and the district maintains that the board needs to have done that in order for the closure to happen legally. So it's really still an open question as to what happens next.
All right, Maddie Hanna, education reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thank you so much for joining me on CityCast Philly.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll have a link to more reporting on this story from the Philadelphia Inquirer in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Share this episode with a friend. Rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.